Hello again, and welcome back to the Mongodb podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about NoSQL, application development, and all things related to data and MongoDB. I am Michael Lynn, and this is my co-host, Nick Raboy.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, Nick. In this episode, we're talking to another startup founder, Andrew Rasmussen of Canny.io. I love this product, and actually MongoDB, we are a satisfied customer of Canny.io here. We use it to get feedback and feature suggestions for some of the products that we have in MongoDB. Specifically, we're using it for MongoDB Stitch, so check that out. Let's get right into the podcast. But before we do, I want to give a quick reminder about Mongodb World. That's coming up in May 4th through the 6th. It's a phenomenal event held in New York City. It's the biggest user conference for MongoDB of the year. And we're delighted to be able to extend a 25% discount on passes to this conference. If you use the code podcast at registration, you'll get 25% off of your passes. So I hope to see you at that conference. I'll actually be speaking there, so looking forward to seeing you there. So let's get right into the podcast.
We're with Andrew Rasmussen, and we're going to be talking about Canny, what it is, and how they're exactly using it with MongoDB and their experience with our MongoDB Startups program. But before we get into the core material of the episode, I want to give Andrew a chance to introduce himself. So how are you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today, Nick.
So what can you tell us about yourself? Just maybe what are your hobbies? What are you doing outside of work? What are you doing at work? Kind of things like that. What are your interests?
Sure. Well, I've got a software engineering background. I've been coding professionally for about 10 to 15 years. Before Canny, I worked on React.js at Facebook. And let's see, outside work. So honestly, it's video games. So I'm a pretty competitive person. And for me, I've been playing this game called Rocket League. It's kind of like soccer with race cars. And I'm in the top 10%. Just been working on that outside of work. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Just because I'm interested here, you weren't by chance one of the founders of React, were you?
No. Well, I joined as a new grad, and so I got to work with the founders of React, which was a great experience right out of college. But no, I can't take credit for that, unfortunately.
Awesome. So were you building upon the core framework, or were you just using React at Facebook?
So when I joined, the new project was React Native, which was letting people build React apps for iOS and Android, not just the web. And so I got to work on that. It was kind of like running it like a startup. And so I was in the grounds working with our initial users and understanding how to make React Native work better for them.
Got it.
I was checking out your background before we started the conversation, and I was just fascinated by the fact that you started as an intern at Facebook, and yeah, that we just learned a little bit of, that you were working on React.js. That's pretty awesome. How did you make the jump from working as an intern at Facebook to starting your own company?
Yeah. Well, first I joined full-time at Facebook. I did that for a year and a half, and that's where I worked on React. But at some point, it just felt like it was too big of a company, and I wanted to it was just too comfortable. I wanted to take more risks. And so that's where Canny came in. It was an idea that we were really excited about and had been working on a little bit on the side. And yeah, we decided to make the leap full-time, and fast forward 5 years, I think it is now. It's been a great decision for me.
That's awesome. And I'm a huge fan of Canny, by the way. But so the listeners have a good understanding, can you give us the elevator pitch of what Canny is?
Definitely. So Canny is a user feedback tool. And so we help other software companies keep track of feedback from their customers, from their employees, just from any set of users that they care about. And really, it's mostly about feature requests. And so our typical customer is the product manager, and we help them make better product decisions so that they can make the decisions to grow their business most effectively.
That's great. And feedback is just such a critical part of literally every business. I worked in the space a little while back. I worked at a company called Medallia and had a phenomenal experience with working in the feedback space. So I understand the importance of it. But I also wanted to mention that MongoDB is a customer. We use Canny, and you can leverage the Canny platform to log requests for features in the Stitch product. So yeah, great experience there so far. But tell me, so you were working at Facebook, you decided to take risks, you jumped and started to create Canny. Tell us about the experience of leveraging your own tool as part of development of your company.
So yeah, totally. Our target customer is a software company, and we ourselves are a software company, and so that means that we can use our product. We can be our own customer, and so we use Canny to collect feedback from our customers and keep track of it, and to make better decisions when we decide which features to prioritize.
So I have two follow-up questions here. So first of all, you said that this is mostly for feature requests, or is it only for feature requests?
There's a few other use cases, and so it's really the thing about Canny is people can vote on ideas, and so usually that's really most valuable with feature requests. But people can also vote on bugs if they're really been experiencing a lot of bugs. There's other things that you can vote on, and so maybe like which integration should we build, or if you're a a consumer company. We have a few consumer companies. It's like which product should we add to our product line? Picture like an e-commerce store, like a sneaker company, like which new sneaker line should we add, or what color sneakers should we add. It's really, that's the core component, is being able to vote on ideas. And what we found has been most valuable for our customers has been to vote on feature requests, but there are a few other use cases out there.
Got it. So, when you're collecting this data, you said it's kind of like a poll. Is that what I understand, or what kind of data are people providing you when they use this tool? Is it multiple choice questions, free text? What's it look like?
Yeah, it feels a little bit like a forum or like a community where there's just a list of posts, a list of ideas, and people can submit a new idea, or they can vote and comment on an existing idea.
I love that. I love that. And I'm sorry to step on you there, Nick, but one of the great experiences I've had with the product is when I logged a request for a feature in MongoDB Stitch to be able to use Command S to save your function, and that was a request that just drove me a little bit crazy. While I was editing functions in Stitch, you just didn't have the ability to hit Command S and save your work. So I jumped on over to Canny and logged that as a feature, and I watched it get voted up. So apparently, many, like the power of the voice of the developer voice, many people jumped on that, voted it up to the top, and it was prioritized by the engineering team. Yeah, it was a great experience.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, I think that's really kind of the problem that we've set out to solve. Is our initial frustration was, as users, we felt like companies didn't do a great job at listening to our feedback. Like, you would submit something maybe to their support team, maybe to an email address, and it kind of just dies there. And as a user, that's really not satisfying. And so to hear that, your idea was submitted through Canny and then voted on by other users and then actually implemented, is that's the problem we set out to solve. And so
Yeah.
that makes me super happy.
Yeah, right on. Hey, so who else is in this space, in the space that Canny is, like other folks with products out there, and maybe talk a little bit about what makes Canny different.
So when we started about 5 years ago, I think I could name all of our competition just on one hand. We had maybe 4 or 5 other companies doing this, and a lot of them were focused on the enterprise space, the customers that were upstream. And nowadays, it seems like there's a new competitor every month. It really seems like a lot of people have kind of taken interest in this space, or maybe just people are starting more startups these days. And yeah, a lot of people, actually, some of them are actually cloning our product, where they'll build, they'll use the same exact copy on their landing site. They'll kind of copy our pricing strategy, and that's been interesting to see. I think what is it? It's like replication is the most sincere,
Imitation, yeah.
something like
Right.
that. Flattery. I don't know. I'm butchering it, but yeah, imitation. There we go. But yeah, I think the biggest difference about what makes Canny stand out is that, when you look at our team and who started this company, it's me and Sarah. I'm a software engineer, and Sarah's a product designer. We both came from Facebook, and so we're pretty good at what we do. And I think really that's the big difference, is the product quality. We're a product focused team. If you look at some of these other companies, they're started by salespeople, and they're really good at sales, which is great. But for the customer, you want to use a great product, and really why people choose Canny is because our design is great, our product looks great, it's really easy to use for both your team and your users. And I think that's going to translate into more business value. You're going to get more feedback, it's going to be easier to understand that feedback. And that's the way that I see us versus kind of the competition.
That's great. It's always about the people. Always. It always comes down to the quality of the people behind the product. So tell me about your decision process and how you ended up leveraging MongoDB.
So I believe that when you start a company, there's there's such a high chance that you fail that you have to minimize, your chance at failing. And I guess what I'm getting at here is like, you don't have time to learn a new database. You should use the tools that you already know. And for me, the tool that I knew was MongoDB. It was the thing where when I was working on a new side project, I would use MongoDB. And so I knew that when I started Canny, or when we started Canny, that MongoDB was the way to go because that's what we would be able to move fastest with. And if it's a problem, you can always change it later. And so like when you look at Facebook, Facebook is built in PHP because that's what Zuck knew back when he was at Harvard. And so for me, I chose MongoDB because that's what I knew, and it's turned out to be a great choice. We haven't had any major issues, and it's been working out great for us.
So what does your stack look like exactly for Canny then?
Sure. So we've got React on the front end, obviously. I can't really, go with anybody other than that. And we're using Node.js in the back end, and then we're running on mostly AWS and MongoDB for cloud hosting. And yeah, I think the nice thing about Node.js is that you're using JavaScript on both the front end and the back end. And so, your team only has to know one programming language, JavaScript, and you can share code between your front end and your back end. It's definitely made things a lot simpler for us.
Not only that, but it's a familiar type to BSON, right? Being that it's so similar to JSON, right?
Yeah.
The way that you're working with Mongo. So I guess that leads me to my next question is, how exactly are you using MongoDB at Canny?
Sure. So it's our main database, and so we only have one database, and it stores all of our data for all of our customers and everything. And yeah, we're using MongoDB, the technology, as our database technology, and then it's hosted on MongoDB Atlas, the cloud hosting service for MongoDB databases. And does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. So was Atlas your first choice? Because you said Canny is roughly 5 years old now. I assume that you had some kind of other solution prior, correct? Or maybe walk me through it.
Yeah, we started on IBM Compose actually, and we ended up migrating over to MongoDB Atlas for a couple reasons. But I think the main reason was pricing. Was their pricing model scales per gigabyte, and so we got to a point where I think as a small early stage startup with no funding, we were paying $1,000 a month to IBM just for database hosting, and it wasn't a huge database. And we looked over at kind of different options. We explored, a couple, I think there were a couple different major ones, but we ended up on MongoDB, which seemed like the best compromise between the quality of product that you're getting and the price that you pay. It just seemed like it made so much more sense than what we were doing back then.
Oh, that's great. And excuse me. So tell me about the scalability of Canny. Do you have fluctuations in your utilization over time? And have you had the opportunity to take a look at the auto scaling features?
We use some auto scaling features. And so for example, like disk space, I think that one might be automatic, but when we hit a certain threshold, it automatically scales the disk space on MongoDB, and that's been working great. I think we actually just had that happen this week and it was totally smooth. We got a notification, it happened, and that's fine. In terms of our company, we're a B2B company, and so we don't have the kind of volume of a consumer company where there's like millions of users. And so we haven't had too much in the way of kind of needing auto scalability yet. Like I like to think of us as having maybe a small to medium size data set. And so it's pretty comfortable right now. Maybe at some point we'll look at being able to like auto scale the cluster, but it just hasn't been a major problem we need to solve yet.
Oh, that's good to know. And tell us what's exciting, maybe coming down the pike. What's on your roadmap?
Sure. So this year, our focus is to make Canny work better for big companies. And so when we started, we were mostly focused on startups and small companies, and it's been great. We've kind of built this inbound engine where people come in and sign up and pay, and we don't even really need to talk to them. There's no like sales process, which is a great business, but we're specifically interested in working with some bigger companies, and part of that is just building out the features that they need. And so a lot of that is stuff like a Salesforce integration, various forms of SSO and SAML permissions, stuff like that. Just a lot of great features for making it work better for big companies.
So I don't know if this is on your roadmap or if this is something that you're already using, but because feedback could be, I guess, pretty diverse. Are you leveraging any kind of full text features or any kind of data science integrations with MongoDB and Canny?
We aren't currently. Maybe that's something that we should be looking into.
Got it. No, I just thought I'd ask. Some people are, some people aren't. Depends on definitely your business needs. So that's pretty awesome. So, um, from my understanding, you're part of our MongoDB for Startups program, correct?
Yep, that's right.
And maybe Mike, you want to go and talk about a little bit about this particular program since this is your realm of specialty
Sure
before we jump
thing.
into that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I guess for the listeners, MongoDB for Startups is a program that is built specifically with the sole purpose of helping startups build amazing things without having to focus on scaling and building and maintaining and securing their databases. So, we provide access to the MongoDB Atlas platform. We provide access to technical advisors and a whole host of other benefits that are really pointed at helping the startup get off the ground. And we're really super happy to have Canny in that program. And I guess maybe Andrew, if you could talk a little bit about your experience in the program, like what features of the program or benefits have you enjoyed, and how has it been overall participating in the MongoDB for Startups program?
Yeah, no, it's been good on our side. I think the biggest thing that was appealing to us is the credits. Is we got some credits for doing that, and we haven't raised any money, and so we are a bootstrapped company, and so being able to kind of get those credits and not worry as much about the database hosting bill is it makes a big difference for us. Um, and yeah, other than that, I think we get some level of maybe support differences through the program and or something like
Mhm.
that. I honestly I think we might need to dig into the benefits and see what else that we're missing.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole host of additional benefits, and when startups come into the program and they begin to consume those credits, they unlock a whole host of other benefits and partnerships. And would love to talk to you in more detail about that. Um, and yeah, so really happy to have you in that program. But as we get close to wrapping up here, I'm wondering if you have as a startup, as a founder, having gone through the program and working with MongoDB, any words of advice or words of wisdom for others, maybe they're starting just beginning their journey as a startup.
Yeah. I think like one thing going back to what I said before is, use the tools that you know. Like as an engineer, you shouldn't be learning new tools just to start your company. Starting a company is hard enough that if you don't use what you know, you're just making it harder on yourself. Um and yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. I think obviously, you should always be thinking about solving people's problems. As building a business, getting people to pay you money for what you've built, you have to solve their problem and you have to add more value to them than, they are providing to you through money. And so obviously always coming back to value and solving problems for the customer is a good thing. Um, yeah, I think that's probably what I've got.
So I actually had one more question for you regarding the startup program, actually. So as you probably know, one of the perks of being a part of the program is getting access to our MongoDB events, right? So .locals, MongoDB Worlds. Have you had an opportunity to be a part of those events at all?
I haven't. I'm in Toronto right now. Do you guys have events in Toronto?
We have in the past. We don't. I don't know when this is going to air, but we do bring the MongoDB locals around the world, and I think Toronto is a destination that we may have on the roadmap.
Cool. Yeah, if there was one here, I'd definitely be happy to check it
Yeah,
out.
it's a huge benefit for startups or just any kind of developer trying to get their foot in the door when it comes to MongoDB and just overall good development. So Andrew, I want to ask you, do you have any kind of plugs that you want to do about Canny before we bring this episode to the close? Do you want to share any links about maybe any kind of promos or social media handles, things like that? Anything you think would be beneficial to the listeners?
Um,
And we'll definitely include them in the notes as well.
I think I've already said what I needed to say about Canny. I think, we're focused on making it work great for big software companies. And so if you yourself are a product manager at a big software company, then reach out and I would love to chat about how we can solve problems for you. Other than that, there's a few friends that are out there running great bootstrap businesses. And if I could mention them, I
Yeah,
would I
please.
would love to do that. Would that
Do
be all
yeah.
right? Cool. I think there's two that come to mind, and one is Missive. It's a collaborative email client, and so when your email comes in, you can collaborate with your team, and you can share it with your team. You can chat, you can see read receipts, you can tell when people have read your emails. It's super useful as just a team collaboration tool. And our whole team lives in Missive. I really love them, and their design is great, their product is great, and their support is great. And so I'd highly recommend checking them out if you're looking for a tool to run your startup on email wise. Other than that, there's a CozyCal, which is appointment booking software. So picture Calendly, but made by super awesome founders over in Vancouver. The product quality, again, is really nice. It's a really beautiful interface, and their support is amazing. They always get back to me, and sometimes when I ask for things, they build features right away. And so I really am excited about both of these tools. It's two things that our whole team uses, and yeah.
Sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
Hey, well, Andrew, we appreciate you taking the time to be on this show, and we wish you the best of luck in your journey at Canny. Right, Mike?
Yeah, great. It was great having you on, and I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, Mike and Nick, thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and yeah, it's been a great opportunity to be on this podcast.
We hope you're able to learn a lot from Andrew about Canny.io and how they're using it with MongoDB. I just want to give out a quick reminder that Mongodb World is coming up May 4th through 6th, 2020. If you're interested in participating, it is in New York City. We do have a promotional code for you. If you use the promotional code podcast, you'll get a 25% discount towards your pass. In addition, if you did find this podcast to be valuable, it would mean a lot to us if you went into Apple Podcast or a similar network that allows for ratings and reviews and left us a dope review in terms of what you learned on this particular show. So that way other listeners can get an idea of what they're getting themselves into. If you're on social media, so are we. Go ahead and find us on Twitter or one of the other popular social media websites. You can find us at MongoDB pretty much across the board. So for example, twitter.com/MongoDB is one of them. We hope that you enjoyed this show enough to want to tune in for future episodes. So we'll see you in another episode.